Hello and welcome to this Bank Holiday Monday edition of Middle Earth Readings. It is Monday, the 1st of May, so happy Beltane to those of you who celebrate Beltane, and happy Walpurgisnacht for those of you who celebrate Walpurgisnacht. I hope you had a nice weekend and that you are enjoying your bank holiday, those of you who are not working or those of you who are working. I have spent a lovely morning with my children. Only one of them, sadly, because one of them was misbehaving, so he has to stay at home. But we went on a walk. It's at our local gardens, and they do a hunt. They do a plants hunt, and so we had our sheets and we were looking for the plants. And there are two options for these activities. One was you could hunt for the green man, which I love because I'm working with the Ingu's rune at the moment here. We're working with that for the Beyond the Veils retreat at the moment, so it's very nice to be hunting for the green man. And he was up. Someone had beautifully painted all these little green men faces with the correct colours to give clues to people about the plants so we could find them. So you could choose to find the green man and then you would know where the plant was, or you could do it without the green men and you could look for the plants based on your knowledge of what they look like and what they smelt like and the descriptions. And I was thinking about this and thinking about this time of year when we celebrate Beltane. For me, it's Beltane has always been a very special festival for me. My birthday is this week. Hooray, happy birthday to me. It's my sun rune in Lagus, and it's also my wedding anniversary because we got married on the 30th of April so that we could enjoy that energy of Beltane. But Beltane is a Celtic festival. And in terms of ancestry, no reason why I shouldn't celebrate a Celtic festival. But obviously I do look for those more Germanic influences, and Walpurgisnacht is I'm not going to say equivalent, but it's a festival about which we know much less. So the name itself comes from a saint called Saint Walpurga, and the only thing that we really know is that it became Walpurga's saint's day, and her legend overlaid what was a pagan festival or a series of pagan festivals over the course of this period of time that we know very, very little about. And really we can only follow our instincts during those times and say, what feels right, and maybe look to some of the neighbouring traditions, the Celtic tradition of Beltane. What would have been happening then? What was happening? Where are the clues? Where are the breadcrumbs? But at some point, we have to take a leap of faith, and we have to say, well, what do I feel? I've done my head research. I've done my research. I've done my what's out there. What do the archaeological finds say? What do the texts say? What do the myths say? And then we have to take that leap of faith and try and see what works for us, and build perhaps a new version of our connection to land and magic that works for us in the moment. And I was thinking about this in the context of this walk. I'm thinking, yes, sometimes there will be a nice little sign, a green man that's there saying, this is the plant, this is the ceremony, this is the ritual, this is the thing. And sometimes we have to piece together our knowledge that is incomplete, our incomplete knowledge of what's out there, and then we have to follow our instincts. Now, I was my son, he's small, and he chose the green man, and I was sort of looking for other plants, but I was watching the other families who were saying, well, I think it's this plant, mummy, it could be this one, but then there's this one over here that looks very, very similar. Let's feel the texture of the plant. What does it feel like there? It is that exploration and that hands-on experience which is important. So how have you been celebrating? If you have been celebrating, how have you been honouring this time of year. I would love to hear that. And I can see that a lot of people are sharing their runes that they're working with at the moment, which is wonderful. Hi Chen with Bacano, hi Suzanne, Candice, you've got Dargaz, Meg says hello, Amy, you have also got Dargaz, Suzanne is working with Dargaz, we've got a lot of Dargaz, and yes, we are working with Dargaz. That is the first rune up for this week of looking at full moon magics. That's our the lunar phase that we're in at the moment. We've got beautiful full moon energy coming up on the 5th of May to harness, and it's going to be a powerful moon. Last month's moon was, that was a full-on, it was a full-on lunar experience, wasn't it? And this month's moon is perhaps a more it's funny because although it's Hagalaz and you think, the rune of disruption and hail and be the change and everything, it is more rooted in some ways. It's more anchored, but it calls on us to anchor ourselves. And the movements of the planets that I'm going to go through are bringing a theme for this week of exploring self-trust and self-doubt, which ties in with this energy of sometimes the path will be laid out for you by somebody else, and they will say, I have been here before and I have left a map. And sometimes it will not. There will be a terrain in front of you that you do not know, and all you can do is to use your instinct about which direction you're traveling in, where it is that you want to go to, and your knowledge of previous journeys that you've taken to say, well, this looks safer. This looks like I'm going to get the herbs that I need from here. This is where I'm going to get fresh water. We have to rely on our instincts so much more strongly. And they are there, but our modern world is always overlaying stuff over the top. Valpurga was only the beginning. And I'm not suggesting that she's not that's not a great spiritual path in its own right. But for some of us, it's not our path. And we need to be able to dig that little bit deeper. And it's not just an archaeology of our culture, of a lost culture. It's an archaeology of spirit and of self. We're on a path of self-discovery and a path, why can't I speak today? A path of spiritual exploration. Let's have some excitement with that. Let's have some fun with that. Hi Meg, you've got Perthrow this time. I'm not looking at Perthrow at this moment, but it is a very magical time. And what I'm actually really aware of is this backdrop of Perthrow energy. When I think about Beltane, it is a time when the veils between the worlds grow thin. And we talk about Samhain, which is again a Celtic festival, but we do have again the honouring of that time of year in different ways with the wild hunt and Odin out through the, why can't I speak? Let's shake it off. Through that period of time when we have Hagalaz, when Hagalaz is the rune on the opposite side of the wheel of the year, and then over here when we're over in Laguz, we still have this thinning of the veils. And it reminds me that during those winter months at November time, we can feel the spirit of winter and the spirit of death, let's say the ancestors rising strongly, of releasing and letting go stuff back into the realms of the dead, but also of the wisdom of the ancestors coming back up to us. But what I'm reminded of is that in the northern tradition, Laguz is the rune of water, and water is a symbol of both life and death. And when we are here in this time when the abundance of the earth is coming through, or it's pouring with rain as it is today, which also feels very Laguz, that it is the same source. The source of life is also the realms of the dead, the realms of fairy, the realms of spirit, the realms of the giants. When the boundaries between the worlds grow thin and the energies move, they move between the worlds. And Midgard, Middle Earth, where we exist, is right in the middle. No, it is intended to be a bridge between the worlds, and therefore energy is going to pass. Now, this is a little printout that, for those of you who are in Suna's Star Wheel, you're able to print out because it's part of your package. But it is handy if you're not on Suna's Star Wheel. You can see that every week you can basically print this out and you can pop in all of your planetary movements. I only talk about the ones where we're moving, so we're going to be talking about Odin's chariot moving from Laguz into Manaz. We're going to talk about Frigg's chariot that moved into Dargaz today. We're going to be talking about Tia's chariot that is moving from Feu into Uruz later this week. We've got our full moon in Hagalaz up here in the top. And we are going to be talking about, we don't talk about anything else. We shall see. But I mentioned this because right down here you can see that we've got Hela's chariot in Perth row. So this energy of old stuff coming back, of karmic flow. I'm using the word karmic because it's just a helpful, we really know that energy. We understand that word. Very much though in keeping with weird, that we reap what we sow, the cycle continues, what happened will happen again, the pattern must be played out, we must complete. All of these things come through with the Perth row rune, and this is from the realm of the dead. And so the Perth row rune is actually very strong at the moment. So I'm going to just mention that for you, Meg, because I know we're not doing Perth row. And then just here in the centre, in case you're wondering, so this is my rune that I'm working with at the moment, so I just put it in the center, and it means that you can look at all of the runes. This is like a rune reading for the cosmos, at this point. This is what I use for working on Middle Earth readings. So I thought I would share that with you. By creating these, let's call them like structures of seership that we work with time after time, we are creating mini moments where the veils between the worlds shift. That's how we energize our seership when we work with that. So that's a reminder for those of you who are on Lunar Star World, that you've got that resource and you can use that any week just to map out what the runes are in that week and what's happening, and to place your own rune in the center. Those of you who have your birth runes will be very familiar with this chart. That's what we produce for. You also get that in the pack, so you can put your own birth runes in there too. And it's the Nornir's gift, in case you're wondering, that goes in the centre, like your special rune that the Nornir gifted to you in the moment. So just a little sneak peek there behind the veils of what happens at Megan Rose with that piece. So what do we do when there's no map? We follow our instincts, and we appreciate that doubt has a function. It has a function. It's not, I must be in self-trust, I must just follow my own way. There is a reason for that. The runes always speak of, they always have two sides. So as you are travelling this unknown terrain, the doubt pops up to say, are you sure you think this is the right way? Is there a moment, do you just want to check in with, what your heart is telling you, with what your subconscious is telling you about, does this feel right? Does it not? But then there comes the point where you have to decide, and so you reach in, you find that knowledge, or you say, actually, I don't have the knowledge, and the only way I'm going to get the knowledge is by moving forward. So it is working, again, and a rune that we're not working with today, but it feels very appropriate. We're working with this energy of the Ewaz rune, of the trust, self-trust to move forward, self-doubt to just pause. Yes, self-trust to move forward, self-doubt to just pause. So it's recognizing that these will partner. Self-trust and self-doubt are partners together. And if we don't have self-doubt, things can go horribly wrong. We can think we're always right. We can think that no one else's opinion matters. We can think that just because I've had this one spiritual experience with this thing, it must be true. Rather than going, well, maybe it was true for me in the moment. And yet if we are ruled entirely by self-doubt, we will never move forward. And then we will never pull those veils apart and come to know ourselves or our true path. Sometimes the only way we find the true path is by taking some wrong turns. So lots to play with there. Let's do our planetary movements, and then we will look at the runes. So well, in fact, let's look at, so Frigg's chariot is moving today. So Frigg's chariot is Venus. So it is not just the realm of love and beauty. If you think about Venus, Frigg's chariot is ruled by Frigga and by Freya. Well, at least that's the way that I work with it. Some people will say, I'll choose one or I choose the other. I find that they tend to move a little bit. Sometimes it's like the morning star and the evening star is the way that I see it, that they're honouring each other in that moment. So it also brings in the seership and the wisdom and the magic of Freya, and the knowledge and the seership and the sovereignty and the care and the collaborative power of Frigg. So, when you're working with your planets and you're working with them in the northern tradition, you want to be looking at the legends that are associated with the deities that resonate with the energy of the planets, but they're going to bring their own suite of powers and wisdoms to the way in which that planetary energy filters through to you. And so Frigg's Chariot in Hagalaz really is, drawing on that that self-trust, peace, and it's recognizing and honoring the nature of Frigg. That Frigg says to us, she says, wisdom is not just knowing, it's not just seeing, it's not just, it's actually speaking. It's knowing when to speak, when to stay silent, when to say, actually, this is not my path. This is not my turn to be in charge. This is somebody else's turn to be in charge. They need to learn the way for themselves. I might have the map, but if they follow the map, they're not going to get what they need from the journey. So I'm not going to give it to them. Or knowing I'm a bit frightened to speak. I feel as if other people are going to disagree with me. Self-doubt gets in the way. I feel alone, afraid. I feel as if I'm an edge dweller. And again, it's that discernment, like when to speak is important. So it's honouring that dark and really honouring the seer within you. It's very Beltane, very looking into the beyond the veils, practicing seership at this point. If you've got your Hagalaz energy, is going to be important. And practicing that moment of saying, is there anything that I'm supposed to be speaking or sharing right now? Or am I supposed to be in silence right now? Where is the part of me that knows when to speak and when to keep silent? Is what you're playing with there. It's the energy of discernment. It also begins with a D, which is helpful with the Hagalaz. I haven't brought the rune up. Let me just bring the rune up so you can see your Hagalaz rune, and then I will know that I've done it as well. There we go. So the magics, if you think about working with harnessing the energy of the full moon in Hagalaz and working with the magics, these are about shedding our conditioned responses to, oh no, I can't say that. Yeah, can't do that. And shedding our, I need to be the person to fill the silence, to create the harmony, to make everything okay, to apologize. Peace weaving is a northern tradition art form, the art of peace weaving or frith weaving. But it wasn't just about placating. It wasn't about placating or pleasing. It was about being fully in tune with the weird of the moment. So when you're doing your magics with Hagalaz, this can be an act of claiming your magic, your discernment, your ability to speak. And you can do that, you can wear a Hagalaz rune, you can create one, you could have a candle with a Hagalaz rune, or you could simply, throughout the course of the day, call on its power, Hagalaz. Just take a moment with the pause. I was talking about the pause of when do I sit back and when do I move forward. Use the Hagalaz rune in that moment for that pause moment to say, where do I feel it in my body? And once you know where your inner knowing is in your body, you could actually use the Hagalaz rune. You could trace the Hagalaz rune over that place of knowing to allow it to come through more strongly. Hagalaz is a gateway rune, it's a change rune, it's a knowing, it's a transformation rune. It's the butterfly wings opening up and coming into freedom. There's a lot of transformative power available within it. Okay, so that's Frigg's Chariot moving into Hagalaz. Now we've got our full moon in Hagalaz on the 5th, which I'm very excited about this full moon, I have to say. Looking forward to Hagalaz. Here we go, is our Hagalaz rune, often known as the disruptor rune, a change bringer rune. It's the rune of the hail seed. It's also known as the mother rune. It's like a crystal. You can imagine this crystalline shape hurtling down to the earth, and it knocks something out of its way. It destroys something as it falls, and then it lands in the earth like a seed, and it releases spiritual energy, the energy of change and transformation, as it transforms, as it melts into water eventually. Maybe it will lie there on the ground for a period of time and we'll just be like, oh, the awesome power of nature. That with this, when you only get those blankets of hail seeds, they can be quite cool. But it's unlike the Ingu's rune, which is the seed of the earth, the seed of gestation. Hagalaz is the seed of change, so you can see it as a spiritual transformer in that sense. And so that act of claiming your power and recognizing that you are here on this planet to be a powerful force. And that doesn't mean being, out there with your Viking shield and your sword. If you want to do those things, those are great, but that's not, for me, the resurgence, this uprising of the Northern European, I think it was like the soulscape that has been hidden, almost like the threads dove down into the tapestry as if Ragnarok had happened, and the gods were dwelling beneath, and now they are rising back up, and they are calling on heroes. They are calling for heroes, but the heroes of our age are very, very different to the heroes that were needed 1,000 years ago. Now, it's 1,000 years ago that that Christianity, that the culture of Christianity and the sort of Roman cultures and all these things were really deeply taking root and being embedded. A lot of the texts that we have about the Northern European tradition were written in those times by Christian monks who are like, these customs and these stories are dying out, so we will record them for posterity. That's what they were thinking. So it's like 1,000 years ago that they were entering their twilight time. 1,000 years later, they are coming back. The flame is being kindled again. So the Hagalaz rune is asking, who are you? What is it that you are here to bring? What kind of courageous magic are you bringing out into the world? So you can harness this full moon energy to help you again. There is a real, even though it's a full moon, because it's the Hagalaz rune, there is a releasing power that is very strongly available. It's a different type of releasing. It's not an emptying. It's not like the new moon where you say I'm letting go of something and I'm passing by. It is very much, I've mentioned this idea of conditioning, of what is the fears, the angers, the shells, you might think about it. What are the shells that I have put in place, or the masks that are there, that have been there for a real reason, for, to protect, to help me to move amongst other people in a way that feels safe, or to not move amongst other people, to stay hidden, in a way that feels safe. And Hagalaz is saying, you don't need to just be safe. You are the Hagalaz seed. You do not need to take shelter from the storm, because you are the storm. That's the flip that the Hagalaz rune is asking you to make. It's to say, do not be afraid of the storm. Become the storm. Become the power of the storm rising up inside your heart. And if it feels scary, do it anyway. Do it anyway. The Hagalaz rune will be there to protect in one of its other forms. It's one of its later forms. It looks like a six-pointed star, and I sort of see it as having its own protective shell. It's saying, if you release your shells, then the spiritual energy of Hagalaz can manifest more strongly through you and offer its own protection as well. So what are the things that you're putting off or you're afraid to do? Give a little try with them. If there's any magics that you go, maybe that's a bit too advanced for me. Sometimes we all try things that feel as if, is that the responsible thing to do? And I can't believe I'm saying this, because I'm always saying to my students, be responsible, don't do the thing, I think. But this Hagalaz at full moon is saying, if there is a time to take risks or to try something a little bit different, a little bit edgy, let's say, now is a good time to do it. So I'm going to stop banging on about the irresponsibility of the Hagalaz rune at this point. It's just coming in and being mischievous. My teacher self is going, no, it's fine, it's fine. Okay, so then we are going to have, so Odin's chariot is, we call it on retreat. He is on retreat at the moment. Everyone needs it. We talked about it last week, the sort of power of the introvert, the need to recharge. He's on retreat, and he's been in Lagus, this energy of water, this energy of death and renewal. And he is actually moving back into Manas. So he's moved out of Lagus, and he's retreating all the way back into Manas. I don't have my little rune collection here because we've already done Manas. So it's almost like that moment when we stand in our power, truly, and then a transformation occurs because we've done that. We become somebody else because we showed up fully as ourselves. And this is almost what Odin is doing. It's like he's gone down. He said, yes, I'm in my sovereign power, but I am deplete, and I need to take this journey. And what he's doing is he is recovering himself in that point. It's a little bit like a power retrieval or a soul retrieval that he is undergoing. And so this is an excellent time. It's one of the this is one of the reasons, because I know that the Beyond the Veils retreat was always going to happen, but it is energizing the Beyond the Veils retreat, which is very much about power retrieval. It's a wonderful time for calling on your lost power, your lost soul parts, those parts of you that you feel like they've been buried, they've been hidden, for whatever reason they've left from me. I feel empty, I feel less than I was, or I know that I could be more. And calling those back to you. So although I'm not mentioning although Manas isn't officially in our runes of today, you can wear your Manas rune and you can call it back. This is my Manas pendant here. There we go. So it's a garnet. So Manas, garnet is one of the crystals associated with Manas. It's actually a pendulum, so I tend to use it. But I used to wear it. Now I use it as a pendulum. And I don't know why it's out. It's out on my desk. It was not there this morning. Who knows? But it's a reminder to me, again, that if you think about the Hagalaz energy, where I was saying, step into something, take a bit of a risk. Yes, we can go on, we can do work, we can do journeying work, we can do soul recovery work. We can work with our runes, we can do journeying with them, and we can recover lost power that needs to be returned to us. We can build our luck hoard back up. We can become more energized. But there are other ways of retrieving power as well, and some of them are practical. They are about doing the thing that we are frightened of and reclaiming power that way. So we can take an inner journey, but we can also take an outward journey. So bear those things in mind. Both are strong mana, strong power reclamation. So if there is something through this week where you're just going, oh, I'm not sure about that, label that as, I am doing this in order to retrieve my power. Work with your Manas rune. Get your garnet crystal, charge it up with your Manas rune, carry it with you. It's so powerful. It's a really powerful way of working. And it brings me actually quite very nicely on to, I'm going to cover, I know we're going to do Tears Chariot, but I want to cover the Hagalaz rune now. So this is one of our deep dive runes that we're going to be working on, and it feels like the right time to do this. So the Hagalaz rune is always a gift when it comes up through the week of rune magics, working with the lunar runes, because it is about creativity, about creative endeavor. And so everything that I've been talking about in terms of saying, well, how can I create a magical operation? How can I charge up an object? How can I bind my intentions to an object that will hold energy for me, similar to my garnet there that I mentioned, or using the rune in some way? And the Hagalaz rune is the ultimate rune for helping us to do that, because it is the rune of creativity. It's the torch, so it brings the ideas. Oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And it helps us to manifest them into reality. What have I written down here? No, I've just written creativity. That's fine. So yeah, it's our word for Hagalaz this week is creativity. So this is about, for you, if you have the Hagalaz rune as your rune for this week, it will be about saying, again, really, not just about the actions that I can take, which I've mentioned there with our sort of courageous actions that we can take, honouring the Hagalaz rune, but also about what are the physical things. Some people like to create a vision board. Some people they like to cook their intentions into their food. Some people like to do gardening. It's about creating these physical containers that hold our intentions within them. So you can use your Hagalaz rune in that way. I'm just checking my big rune spread. I'm just very aware that at the moment there are lots of runes that symbolize like fire. You've got fire, and then you've got these water runes with Lagos, a couple of Lagos runes, a couple of Perthrow runes there in our overall weird chart. Very, very useful for the Kenaz rune, because the Kenaz rune, what it does is it binds the energies of fire and ice. It draws them into itself, and then it transforms them into something else. So you can see it in that way. You can see it as a weaving of force and form is essentially what Kenaz is doing. Ice, form, fire, force, coming together. And obviously, classically, in the physical sense, you bring them together and they create water, which is what I mentioned with the Hagalaz rune, that it comes down and it creates water and it becomes the cycle of life and death flowing. But with the Kenaz rune, that relates to all of the elements. It brings in all of the elements, and it says, you can pretty much create the most intricate, carefully crafted magics by bringing together the arts of force and form. You can do that with your voice. It doesn't even have to be a physical object in the sense of something that you can hold. When you chant the rune Kenaz, and you think about it as being, every time I chant it, I am creating a sound, a vibration that is traveling now out into the air, and I am transforming the oxygen into carbon dioxide, and I can allow my intentions to be captured within that moment, within my song of the Kenaz rune. So it's very much, Suzanne has put it very beautifully, Kenaz, the art witchery rune. Yes. Also, the art of witchery is what I would say. If you think about classic ideas of witchcraft, of this creation of change through potions or sigils, or getting your broom and sweeping it around, that you're harnessing your intentions to an activity or a physical object in some way. So you think as creatively as you can using your Kenaz rune. So what are your intentions? What is your courageous magic? What are the things that you want to shed? And then use your Kenaz rune to help you to do it. So I'm going to look at Tia's chariot in Uruz. Now, Uruz is again one that we're not, I wasn't planning to do a deep dive on, but Tia needs to honour it. So it's the end of the week. So the Odin is moving on the 7th, so the last day of the week, and Tia's chariot is also moving on the 7th. So for all of this week, he will stay in Feyú. So you can still got that flowing Feyú energy. Working. It's a little bit edgy, a little bit raw sometimes. It can bring up some slightly painful experiences. I'm thinking about Tyr and the Fenris wolf, and the sort of deep love between them, and this real bond, this flowing bond of play that they had, and then the requirement for Tyr to bind the Fenris wolf is a tragedy. It's a personal tragedy for him. It is a necessary personal tragedy. And so it could be that through the course of this time, when we've had Tia's chariot in Feyú, that some of those raw places, those places where we have to make decisions that don't feel like they are aligned with our true purpose. Surely this can't be part of my truth. Surely this isn't my path. Haven't I been doing everything right? Why is it that I don't have this perfect life when I'm doing everything that I'm told to do? And Tyr is a wonderful comfort and support for those of you feeling in that position at this time, because he's experienced that himself, and he has taken the hard decisions that need to be taken. And when he moves into the Uruz rune at the end of the week, it is that it is the recognition of how strong you are. The recognition that I took that decision. That was not easy. I didn't let anybody else do it. I didn't become the victim in this. I didn't become the martyr in it. Tyr doesn't say, I have to give up my right arm and it's going to be really, really bad. He just says, so be it. So be it. And he stands as a figure of truth and integrity and honour and power for us, because he has taken decisions that on the outside seemingly weaken and wound. and diminish him. None of those things make him less, they make him more. And when we have the Uruz rune coming through with Tyr in Uruz, it's very much about standing again. You know, I mentioned that Odin is on his power retrieval journey. Tyr is holding that space. During that time, Odin's going deep. Tyr is there. If there is anyone, obviously Frigg is holding the throne, but Tyr is holding that Odinic energy at this time while he's there. So there is a time during this period when Tyr's chariot is in Uruz. Bear with me. I'm not sure if I put how long. No, I'm not going to try and look it up because I had to close everything down. I was going to look up for you how long it's in. It's definitely it's a longer period of time because the planets that are further out take longer and they stay longer in each of the runes. Fabulous time for doing your symbol rites and toasting to yourself, for really working on what am I proud of, who have I become, what are the things that I have done that I didn't think I would be able to do. Really being courageous with your symbol rites when you say, this is me, this is who I am. It's that energy with the Uruz rune there. So we have 3 more runes that we're going to look at for our deep dive this week. So we're going to look at the Isa rune. So I mentioned Kina. So Kina is a rune of fire, even though it binds ice and fire within it. It's seen as a fire, and it's like the forge. It brings the metal, and it's placed within the forge. And Kinaz is both the forge and the metal and the thing that is transformed and transmuted. But Isa is the rune of ice. And what this is calling us into is this solidity, which is why I wanted that they're coming at the right time. Like the Tyr's chariot and Uruz felt really well because it resonates very strongly with this sense of this is me, this is who I am. There are these times when everyone else is flowing around us. They're falling. They're saying, "Oh, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this," and you could just say, "No, that's not my path. That's not who I am. I don't need to be pulled with your current." New fads, new trends, new things that you're going to be trying. And Isa says, I am fine exactly as I am. I mentioned that piece around self-doubt and self-trust. So the Isa rune really embodies this and calls us very strongly to anchor in your strength, anchor in your power, and recognize when there are moments in life where that is too much for me. I don't know. No, I've just done a weekend where we did a big birthday party for both of my sons. We did a joint birthday party for them, and it was lovely. And then my smaller son had a second party at the same place the next day, so I took him there, and it was great. But I could feel myself fraying at the edges very rapidly during that time because I'm an introvert and I'm highly sensitive, and for all these reasons, and I'm being surrounded by the people and the bars and the excitement, and oh my lord, and the Isa rune says, if you do that too long, you will break, and you won't be able to hear yourself breaking. And I think this is a really important piece to remember, is that as we lose ourselves, as we travel further and further and further away from our true path or our true self or our aligned energy, we can do that for a period of time, and that's good. It's a strengthening bit, going, oh, I managed that. That was great. Oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought. But you keep on returning. You keep on looping back. If you keep on going out for too long, you lose the ability to recognize that you are lost. Everything goes off kilter. And so the Isa rune says, come back to yourself. Remember those things that remind you who you are. Remember your self-care routines. Remember the rituals that help you to stand in your power. Take time alone if you need to. So if you have Isa during this period of time, it is about looking at that and saying, okay, what are the things that I need to do in order to stay in integrity? And by integrity, I don't mean the integrity of Tyr necessarily at this point of the honour and the action, but actually staying whole, the integrity of being whole. I think it's Martha Blake who says integrity is like a plane would never, you would never send a plane, I'm going to maul her words, she says it so beautifully, you would never allow a plane to take off that didn't have integrity, you know, that had like a piece missing or something. You just wouldn't do it. You know, you want the vessel you are traveling in to have integrity. So this is what the Issa rune is calling forth. And very related to that, and these last runes came very quickly when I asked the runes which ones wanted to come this week. So the Issa rune came, then Northers, and then Suelo came, and so I believe that they are interrelated in terms of the lessons that they want to bring to us and the guidance they want those of us who have received them to work with and to receive. So Northers is calling us into instinct. So I mentioned with Issa there is this sense of solidity, but it was also about following that inner guidance and saying, "This, I need to know who I am." So North is calling you into the instinct piece. And you remember always going back to this theme, the overarching theme of self-trust and self-doubt. It's taking us full circle back to some of those Dargaz magics that we were talking about with where does my wisdom live? Now, where does it live in my body? What is it trying to tell me? Beltane was of, you know, a time when the Beltane fires would be kindled and people would be asking for fertility, and they would jump over the Beltane fires. You know, I always feel that I always feel a little voice of my high priestess in my head saying it could be fertility of the land or wealth. It doesn't have to be fertility of children. You know, say always useful for those of us who don't want to have any more children. No, so. But it's a kindling of what do I need in this moment. So there are going to be some things where your Issa rune or your Dargaz rune, that sort of deep knowing rune, says this isn't working for me. It's not working for me. And yet, remember what we talked about around that sense of sometimes being constrained? We mentioned it with Tia, that sometimes we aren't able to make the immediate changes that are going to be the long-term changes that we want to make in order to manifest the lives that where we can be aligned, where we can be in flow, where we can be giving of our best. The North Israel says pay attention at this time to those signals that are saying you have put out into the universe your desires for something better. Listen to what the universe is saying in response about the actions that you need to take to make room for those something betters to grow. Well, I might not be able to clear all of the weeds in my garden today, much as I would love to. No, I've done good work. This is when I started with my month working with Lagus. I started on the battle with the ground elder, you know, which is an ongoing battle over many years. But when I look out of my window and I see my garden thriving and not covered in ground elder, it makes me happy. You know, I hope it makes my garden happy, and we've done planting and it's looking lovely. And you know, gardening for me is a need. You know, it's a need to be out there and to have my hands in the earth. And that's the reminder, sort of, as Northis is saying, how can you create more time for that? To be out in the garden. It might be that the niggle is the ground elder's coming back, you know, but actually underneath that is that you love your garden. You know, you love your garden. You want to give your time to it. How do you create more time in your week to do that so that you have that? So the Northist rune might be something that's the longer term. This is why the Northist rune is the need fire. It's the kindling of the fire in the dark, and the dark can feel all-consuming, and we can think that that is the Northist rune. But actually, it's the dark that allows us to see the flame and to say, this way. You know, I've kindled the flame. I'm feeling that something is not right. I kindle the flame. So you can be, you know, you can use your fire magics through the course of this week. That will very much be honouring the Northist rune. Remembering, though, that you may need to then take some steps in order to create the conditions for those changes that you want to bring into your life to occur. So by all means, kindle your need fire. But then say, what can I do? How can I participate in this magical change that I want to see in my life? And the final rune that we're going to be working with is Suelo rune, which is another fire rune. It's a more fluid rune than Northis. So Northis can feel sort of either like the darkness or this this burning, it's there, it's calling you forth, I must go this way. Suelo can be more sensual, a bit more playful in some ways as well. So I also feel it flowing over the skin, like the North's rune is deep inside, often in the belly and the pelvis. Suelo is often in the heart and moving over the skin. It's very sensual, and it is talking about intuition. So North's, we've mentioned, is instinct. It's following instinct. Suelo is following intuition in the moment. And again, let's remember the theme: self-trust and doubt. So this is about your interactions with the world around you in the moment. So whereas North's might be about, you don't like this, what are the changes you need to make to move it, Suelo is, again, it's trusting yourself in the moment. I might not say the perfect words, but I'm going to say some really good ones. No, I'm not going to do damage in this moment. I'm going to do my absolute best. There is a little bit of a pause, but I am going to move forward. So it's saying don't hold back. Once you've felt in and you've said, okay, that person over there, they're not okay. What can I do to check in with them? How can I do that in a way that feels heart-opening? If you think about feeling the sensuality of the Suelo rune in your body, for those of you who have done Awaken with me, you can access your Suelo module. You can raise its energy inside you, and then you can say, how can I manifest the energy of this rune? How can I embody the power of this rune through the course of this week? How can I be that person who is flowing through life, who is following my intuitions, who is, how sometimes you just meet somebody and you think just being with them made me feel better. When we work with the Suelo rune at that deep level, it accesses that part of us. It opens that part of us. So if you have your Suelo rune, that's what I would suggest that you work on through the course of this week, is recognizing that you can be the Hagalaz change maker without being like, charge, I will do this, I will do that. Simply by being more fully present in yourself, simply by allowing yourself to glow that little bit more, to offer yourself that a little bit more openly, to be a little bit more vulnerable, to open the heart more fully, to be playful, to laugh, to offer your joy, in the moment. All of these things help us to access the power of Suelo more fully. And it's one of those lovely runes where the more that you seek to channel it out of you, the more it flows back to you as well. So if you have Suelo, I'm a bit jealous of you now if you've got Suelo, if I'm honest. Now, not that I don't love Bacano, I love Bacano, but now I want to be in Suelo. Okay, so I think that is where we are in looking at this week, harnessing the power of this week, thinking about this energy of self-trust and self-doubt. The question that you might ask for yourself this week, and this is so much like the heart of my work, is what is my process? Not what is the process. What is my process for finding my truth? How do self-trust and self-doubt partner with each other in me to help me to find my process for connecting with my truth? So with that, thank you so much to all of you who have joined me when I know it's at a different time. Maggie says, I'm sorry I'm late. Absolutely no problem with that. Maggie, it's lovely to see you. Thank you all so much for coming on this different time. We are starting a new cycle of work in the hearth space this month. We're going to be working with the goddess Skadi, and I think that she is very comfortable with this self-trust, self-doubt piece. I'm pretty certain that she was like, yep, this is one of my gifts to you. We're working with the theme of influence and otherness, which I'm very excited about. We also have our second Beyond the Veils retreat this evening. We're working with the red veil, so we are working on connecting with ancestral energies. The whole retreat is all about power retrieval using Northern tradition techniques. So it's a very exciting retreat. So we're working on that at the moment. And I think that's pretty much all that I have for you at this point. You take care. Hail Scardy, says Maggie. Hail Scardy. Hail Scardy. Blessings to you all. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you very soon.